when you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your...
Hello, everybody. This is Ray Renati, and this is Green Room Radio, and you are in my green room. Today, I interviewed David Rosen. David Rosen is a Las Vegas-based musician. He's done musical scores for all kinds of movies, feature films, short films, television shows. He's got an amazing resume. Go to his website, bydavidrosen.com. That's B-Y David Rosen, R-O-S-E-N.com. And you can see all of his work, get some examples of his videos and his really, I have to say, extremely interesting music. I've been listening to it and I really enjoy it. He's a pro. He's a real pro. He comes from a family of music lovers. His dad is one of the leading collectors of vinyl discs in the world. We talk about that a little bit here. If you want to write to me, just go to my website, rayrenati.com or raysgreenroom.com. You can send me love, whatever you want, whatever you want. Okay, that's enough of that BS. It's time now to listen to my little chat with Mr. David Rosen. So, David, you are a musician and a movie buff. Would that be the right thing to say?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And it looks like you produce a lot of music. Some of it possibly for films. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's my main career focus is composing music for film. I've so far worked on a bunch of films, a lot of short films, a handful of feature films that are out there. No big Hollywood budget movies yet, but a couple that are out on like VOD and all that, and movies that have had like little and all that stuff. And then also music in like television, commercials, things like that. But I also put out albums of instrumental music, and I've been around music in many different ways over the years.
Oh, okay. So do you play an instrument?
Technically I play keyboard, but yeah. I don't always like to call myself someone who can play the keyboard because I am definitely a play by feel kind of a person. I feel out cool sounding music. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
I'm not classically trained or any of that. But I seem to do pretty well for myself because I feel like my music just has, over the years really improved. And got to the point where I'm able to do, entire scores for features, so obviously that works if it's, if it's a certain kind of music you're trying to do. Yeah,
I was listening to it. It's really interesting. I really like it. I could certainly hear any number of these in a film. It's top quality stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the instrument playing. I play guitar, and I take lessons, and I try to be do things the way they tell me, but I end up often just doing my own thing.
Sure.
I have a hard time following instructions as far as that goes. So, how long have you now this podcast that you have? What's the name of it?
So my podcast is Piecing It Together.
Yeah.
And we started it in March. So, yeah, still pretty new, but so far so good. And, more than anything, just having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. And your co-host is who?
Well, actually, I don't have a set co-host. I have a revolving cast of co-hosts.
Okay.
And so far, I think there's been 6 of them so far, and we it's just like, hey, you want to do this one? You want to do this one? And so that way it kind of keeps it fresh. And this way I'm not talking to the same person every time, but I do go back to people over and over again. So that way we kind of, have like a rapport built up, and that way we can, people will hopefully be listening to the show and be like, oh, I liked when those two talked last time, so definitely going to check this one out,
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got about 6 people who I like talk to on a regular basis, and I'm slowly starting to add some other people in too, getting people from other movie podcasts and like friends of friends who are like film critics and stuff like that. So I'm starting to build it out a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when it works really well, and I really enjoyed listening to the one about Rock's movie. You guys worked well together.
Yeah, that guy Chris, who was on that one, Chris Cranock, he's like a big film buff. Like, that's one of the things that I like about. So first of all, the show, like the main focus of the show is not just to review a movie, just for anyone out there listening, but to look at a movie and try to figure out what other movies inspired it. And so that way we end up on like this long journey of a conversation and end up talking about all kinds of other movies. And it just makes it more than just a straight up movie review. But like, yeah, for example, the conversation I had with Chris about Skyscraper, the Rock's new movie, he's like a real film buff, the kind of guy who like, you know, watches every movie in the Criterion collection and can pick them all apart and everything. So it's like, I'm not that, you know, like I love movies. Movies are my favorite thing, but I'm not that deep into it on like a film analysis level. So it's great to have that, to have his point of view, and I can like bounce off of that. But then like, you know, with my friend Q, who I actually have another podcast with called Bird Road, but he's been my co-host a couple of times as well. And with him, it's for all just funny. We're like joking around like the whole time, and I joke around with Chris as well. But I mean, you know, it just kind of changes the mood of it a little bit each time, and that way it keeps things different from episode to episode.
Yeah, that's good. Have any of these movies been just absolute ripoffs of another movie? Like they're so similar, it should be a crime.
Well, I mean, right off the bat, Skyscraper. But I mean, I'd say Skyscraper is kind of a different example though, because at least Skyscraper is like doing it on purpose. Like the director made no, qualms about trying to say that this is Die Hard with The Rock, you know? Yeah. So at least you got to give him some credit for that, you know?
That's cool.
As far as like, just like a straight up like rip off of something else, well, I can't think of one that we've done, but I mean, you see it all the time, though. You know, it's definitely something that happens, and it's something that we would be talking about on the show if we saw that happening. I mean, what one kind of possibility would be Annihilation. I'd say is very much Aliens, just in a different setting. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a thing that happens quite a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, you're regurgitating the same story with new actors and changing the setting around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I prefer whenever possible for us to do like indie films and stuff like that, because at least you're getting a little more originality, with the blockbusters. Like even like when we've done Marvel movies, like, you know, they're fun, they're great, you know, fun movies and all, and they're fun to talk about. But it's like, you know, at a certain point, you're just like, well, this is like every other Marvel movie, you know. It's like it kind of cuts back on all the inspirations you could really talk about when it's just every other superhero movie is the inspiration, you know.
Exactly. I mean, I have a 15-year-old son, and he knows the ins and outs of all of them, and I can't remember the differences between one and the other after I see them. They all just run together in my mind. I have no idea, you know, like what happened in. I don't even remember the names of the damn things. I've seen all of them with them, but
you know. Speaking of which, now Mission Impossible Fallout, which just came out last weekend, I absolutely loved, and we're going to be doing an episode on it tonight, actually. And like we separate our show into puzzle pieces, is what we call the different movies that inspired the movie we're talking about, and a little spoiler alert for the episode if anybody's going to check it out, but we're planning on starting the episode out by the first 5 puzzle pieces being Mission Impossible 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, because it definitely seems to be that this installment takes little bits and pieces from its own series. There's a lot of stuff from 1, a lot of stuff from 2, like right through the entire series. And normally I would actually like complain about something like that, but in this case it just really works. I mean, it's a really good movie. Check it out.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, it's incredible what they can do with movies. You know, it's like most of the time they're just trying to make money, especially with those blockbusters. So they'll do whatever they have to do to cut corners, whether it's revamping old storylines that people sort of remember or whatever, just to get the thing out there and make it look really cool. And then they know they're going to get enough ticket sales. So, I mean, which is what it's all about. And DVDs and streaming video. I guess not DVDs so much anymore. Oh, yeah, that's kind of dying a little bit. But, I mean, there's some of us still out there buying. Yeah. Yeah, so... Your music, you come from a musical family. As your dad, I was looking at, your dad has a giant record store in Las Vegas?
That's right. Yep. That's where I am during the day. Yeah. I work with him during the day. And it's called Waxtrax Records. And it's one of the best vinyl collections really in the world. I mean, it's an insane store. I mean, it's definitely a place people should at least stop by. I mean, people talk about it kind of like a museum because it's just so much stuff, and a lot of the stuff can tend to be a little on the expensive side because it's like rare stuff, you know. But it's like just to see all that stuff, it's really is pretty amazing. It's really special. So you work with him during the day. How great! I'm sitting here looking at the pictures, and it's just amazing. Wow. Yeah, it's a crazy shop, really crazy. Yeah. You have to like step over records. That's how much stuff we have. Like, there's just way too much in there, and we started putting stuff literally on the ceilings, hanging things off the ceilings, and it's 3 floors. It's like an old gutted out house, and just every wall is just covered with shelves of records or memorabilia. We also have like some CDs and DVDs, and we got lots of posters and sheet music and just all kinds of memorabilia. Yeah, I see that. And you have like all kind, like a bunch of Elvis Presley dolls up here. Oh yeah, and looks like Mexican singing dolls. Yeah, my dad's been at it since he started the store. Well, I was born in 1980, so I want to say he started the store in like the late 70s or something like that. But he had been collecting since the 60s or even the 50s. And so, I mean, his collection's just been building and building. And I mean, the store, we don't have like a distributor or anything. It's literally just, his collection just in a store. Yeah. So is this how you got your love for music and all things musical and film related? Most likely, because he's also a big movie buff, Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, most likely, I mean, I don't want to give him too much credit, No, but, I know. Yeah. I mean, I think back about my life and how I accidentally did a lot of the things my father used to do. It was like, no, it had nothing to do with him, And then my son starts, even though he says he's not interested, I start seeing him copying me. And I'm like, wow, it's automatic or something. I suppose it's inevitable a little bit, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what would you like to do? Where do you see your podcast going? Do you have any big hopes for your podcast? I know there are so many podcasts out there now, like that to get a good number of listeners is like one goal. And then other people want to monetize, and that's so difficult these days. I mean, I don't know if I'm sure you noticed there's tens of thousands of podcasts out there. Oh, yeah. Monetizing everything is really difficult. I mean, with my own music, with the albums that I put out of my instrumental music, it's like, you get lots of people listening, but once it comes time to really monetize it, it can be tough, I've done okay, but it's like, really pushing it to that next step. It's definitely hard. But as far as, the podcast itself, monetizing isn't really goal, probably even the first 5 goals for this podcast. I mean, number 1 is just really, I mean, I really do mean it. It's cliche, but like just having fun talking to my friends about movies is number 1. And then, growing listeners is number 2, because I do want, to do it and actually have people hear it. But then what I actually am hoping to do in the near future, and we've done it with a couple of really small indie films so far, but I'm hoping to continue to do it with more indies and then hopefully some bigger movies as well. But actually doing follow-up episodes with filmmakers to ask them these movies that we, are suggesting inspired the movie we're talking about. Were we right? And if not, what ones were they? And if we were right, what do you think about that? Like, are you surprised we caught that? Or, do you think that was an obvious one or whatever, and just making like little follow-up episodes with the filmmakers, I think would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would. Or it might be, well, I don't want to admit that. What are you asking me that question for?
I'm sure we will get that as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Or what? I can't have an original idea,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But.
Yeah, I'm sure some of them will be happy to talk to you. I from the Facebook group, tomorrow I'm interviewing somebody on Stranger Things. One of the actors on Stranger. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I think she's somebody's mother. She's been in 2 episodes. I'm gonna have to go. She was apparently had a big part in 1 episode, and I sort of remember. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. But yeah. So I think I just love the whole podcasting world, and it is a lot of fun. And I really think you got to make that your goal, is to have a good time doing it. And if anything else comes of it, then so be it. And you're lucky. But if you're not already a celebrity, you're probably not going to get, the zillions of listeners like they do. I mean,
I don't know if you saw it in the I don't remember if it was the same podcast group we met in or another one, but somebody posted yesterday, has anybody else reached $100,000 with their podcast? And then someone else commented, did anybody else get 17 billion listens on their podcast?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I've been listening.
Like, sure, buddy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course there's going to be the trolls or whatever you call them. The lying trolls. I was listening to Lance Armstrong had a podcast that he was doing on the Tour de France. The Move, it was called. And then he has a regular podcast called The Forward. And he, it's big time. So many people listen to it. That's because he's Lance Armstrong. And even though he was publicly shamed and almost and sued and almost went to jail, he's automatically going to have a lot of listeners. And he actually does a really good job. He's really good at it. But that's just the way it is. So. Anyway,
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's probably doing it just for fun, too, because I don't think he needs the money. This has been great talking to you, Dave. You like
Absolutely.
to be called Dave or David?
Either way. I seem to be David when I'm doing music and Dave on the podcast. I don't know how that worked out, but
now what's the best way for people to reach you? Just at your podcast website and the other one you gave? I can put that in the show notes.
Awesome. Yeah. piecingpod.com or piecingpod on Twitter and Facebook and all that. That's for Piecing It Together, the podcast.
Yeah.
And then for my music is bydavidrosen.com or by David Rosen on all the social media.
Yeah.
And I just put out a new album called A Different Kind of Dream. That's on iTunes and all that stuff. There's also a new music video that just came out from it. It's actually a VR virtual reality music video called Palindrome. Mm-hmm. So check that out. It's on YouTube, and got a bunch of other new music stuff coming out over the rest of the summer and into the fall.
Great. Excellent. Yeah, you're very ambitious. You have quite a few albums out already.
I stay busy, man.
I can tell you love what you do.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe so if it's possible, I could put like a piece of your music on there. I wouldn't want to put the whole song because then someone could just steal it. But
oh no, that would be awesome. Yeah, no, yeah. I don't mind. You can put the whole song. I'll send you a track after we're done.
Okay, sure. Cool, great. Yeah. All right. Well,
great, man.
Good talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show.
You bet. Now, wasn't that a fun conversation with Mr. David Rosen? I'm going to play a track for you from his collection of songs. It's called Waterfall in Reverse. Thank you, Mr. David Rosen, for your time, and thank you for listening. Remember, love one another and be good to yourselves. And until next time, this is Ray Renati, and I will see you on the boards.